Hey guys, it's Chef Jojo with ECO, and on this episode of Shift Drink, we're going to talk about secret ingredient number 4, leadership, and how you can find your leadership style. As always, we're going to have this discussion over a shift drink. All right, man. Leadership and your style. Secret ingredient number 4. Man, where do you start with such a topic? You know, people have written books and movies and there's tons of YouTube videos about how to be a great leader. And I'm posing in our thumbnail with the dichotomy of leadership written by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. I've read Extreme Ownership, and I'm 3/4 of the way through that. And it's got a lot of ground rules that I think are great. If you guys want to check them out, you can. But, you know, that's the one thing in the kitchen where there's no, rule book. There's no instruction manual. And you kind of got to find your way to a certain extent. And it's the toughest thing to do because you know, how many leaders, great leaders, there's so many of them that we talk about and we idolize. And when you, like Steve Jobs, for example, when I get opportunities, I talk at this culinary school called the Culinary Lab in Tustin. And we play this commencement speech that he gives at Stanford. And, he talks about what he learned. But if you go back and read his book, man, he was rough, right? He was a complete ass, to say the least. And, some chefs can be that way. Look at Marco Pierre White. He was brutal. Or Gordon Ramsay. These guys were definite leaders, and they had a definite leadership style. But then you had to find a team that could tolerate and work through that type of instruction, if you will, or that type of atmosphere or climate. And I think nowadays we really need to take a step back. There's that fantastic movement, fair kitchens. Everybody needs a nice space, and we're under a lot of stress. There's no reason to, there's no reason to be an ass about everything. But we do need to maintain order, and we still need to have standards, and no one has the perfect way of doing it, I would say. We're human, right? We make these mistakes. So you are finding yourself in a kitchen, and you need to lead all these people to have a successful night and a weekend and so on and so forth, or party, however you want to look at it. And the worst part about it is that there's so many people that are really bad at it. And you're working with them and you think, well, that's not how you want to do it, or you pick it up and you don't even know that that's a habit that you have. So I think the first step in becoming a very good leader is practicing self-awareness. And really understanding what you're good at, what you're comfortable with, and how you deliver your messages. And if we could take a step back, a lot of times when you're that cook that's really talented and does a good job in the kitchen, you come in, let's say you come in and you finally get your job and you're on the station, you're working, and you're actually doing a great job. Next thing you know, the chef or management, however you want to look at it, is asking you to come in more. And, you're crushing it. You work well under pressure. You work well with others. And, someone new is coming into the restaurant. Now it's time, hey, Jojo, will you take a minute and show them how to work that station? And then you start training people how to work the station. And next thing you know, you've mastered all the stations, and you are now overseeing a few people. And when you start to oversee a few people, maybe one or two, it's kind of okay. It's not that hard, right? It's like, oh, I just need to be sure that this one person next to me, my buddy, is doing a good job. But you start to add 2, 3, 4 in the mix, and you start to spread it out. It gets really difficult because you are really good at what you do, right? That's how you got the responsibility thrown on your back, if you will. So you often find yourself jumping in and doing a lot more work that they maybe should have done. And you're doing their job. You're holding their hand. You're not leading them. you're enabling them to do less to a certain extent. And then you balance with it, and you get aggressive about what they should be doing, and they retaliate, and then it turns into this vicious cycle. And no one tells a cook how to become a chef, because when you start to become the chef, you are watched, you are basically looked up to and admired, that you got the spot that other people were looking for. And sometimes you didn't even ask for it, you know? And now when you get to that supervisor, that lead, or that sous chef position, in that first little area, you have to manage down and you have to manage up. You're like the linchpin that holds it all together. And if you're not a good leader and you don't explain yourself well, people can revolt and make your job even more difficult. One of the things over the years that I've finally started to understand is that everybody likes to receive their information in their own way or differently. So take the time and figure out how you like to receive your information and how you can give the information or instructions. Maybe you're very good at writing out the recipes. Most of the people that I work with, or in my experience, you know what we're really good at? Watching somebody doing it and being shown. And maybe that's kind of your progress. And then next thing you know, you're doing that and you're talking to them. You're asking them the questions. Hey, how do you like to learn? This is what I'm really good at, is showing people how to do this. Or I like to get my information in bullet points, or so on and so forth. That little bit of communication, knowing that what you're good at helps you. What also helps you is knowing what you're bad at and having that one-on-one conversation with the people that you're leading. Like, I'm not I wouldn't say the most organized. My station was always organized, but I definitely, I'm sure when Gina hears this, she's going to laugh, but I'm not always that organized. I have these big, grandiose plans in my head, and I feel like I can explain myself pretty well in a group verbally. But when it comes to the written word on an email or something, it comes out a little scattered. So I know this. I'm always checking when the next meeting is. So I'm honest about that with the people that work with me. And, I could have messed that up. Did I mix up that meeting, or is that now? Own your failures, and then try to partner with people that are always organized or on time or punctual in a way that they're like, hey, that paper's due, or hey, we need to turn in that report, or is your station prepped? It's 4:45. It's interesting that I did not struggle as much when it came to setting the station or getting the party ready when I was cooking, or was in that chef, like, really hands-on moment or time frame, as now as it's more of this business, operational, logistics, and financials and forecasting. It's a different world, and it's definitely I've stepped up and out of what got me there. Every level that your skill rises, every new level, there's a new devil that you got to kind of go after and conquer. And all of these styles and things, how you get them is you freaking fail a little bit. I often, go back and say that I was not easy to work with or for, however you want to word it, in the beginning of my career. I was relentless. I had this vision, this drive, an ambition that was going to take me to the furthest. I was going to be on every TV show. I was going to be on many books, and that's what I thought I had to be. I thought I had to be an ass to everybody and hold this huge, crazy standard. And I would beat myself up, and I would always just say it's not good enough. It could always be better, and I would never allow myself to relax. It's a sword that you can live by and definitely die by. But other people need to know that there's room for mistakes. Hell, you need to remember that. Our relationship with failure as a leader, you know that you're going to learn something from it. And you should allow your team to understand that and fail in certain ways where it doesn't damage the actual operation. Every step along your path to running a successful restaurant is going to boil down to getting people to give their all in certain moments, or to be really focused, and to have a commitment to you and the establishment that you're running or that you own that's going to give a greater result. You can be a dictator and you can demand things, but if you can get people to push instead of you pulling them, you're going to go so much further. And for me, after a few years realizing that I wasn't the best person to work with, my goal is always to make the team better today than they were yesterday. Sometimes that means you have to have hard conversations with yourself and with others. The same standard you hold others to, hold yourself to, which can be extremely difficult because it can be easy to say, well, I'm the boss, they don't understand all this pressure that I have. Everybody's got their own point of view. The good leaders keep their head on a swivel, making sure that they see all the points of view of their team, and then they make decisions for the entire company or organization or group that's going to put them in the best and situation that they can. And sometimes in this business, you all know that no matter what you do, you're still gonna fail. It's still gonna come out. You're still gonna miss a time. Something's gonna happen. And how you react to that is also going to be watched and also going to be measured and graded. So as a leader, you have to be able to be comfortable with those type of decisions. And you have to take ownership for you and your team. Extreme ownership, if you will. I'm sure Jocko would like that. Man, this is such a big topic, and I know it was like I was all over the place, but things that you need to do. Understand your weaknesses, understand your strengths, look for people that have strengths where your weaknesses are and where they can fit in on your team. Make sure that your team has got a clear direction and they know where they're going based on how you basically communicate with them. And take the time to allow people to learn from their mistakes and don't do it for them, and hold them accountable when they've made the same mistake a couple of times. You know, a smart person never makes the same mistake twice. You know, that's true for some people. I know I've made mistakes and I like, oh crap, yeah, I forgot about that. I need to do it this way. This topic is something we could talk about over and over again in different avenues and different ways, but I know if you're not a good leader, it's very hard to support the team and stay organized. So all of these ingredients, you need a little bit of every one of them to make a perfect recipe. And as always, these are my thoughts and comments, and I would love to hear from you what you think about leadership or leadership styles and how you found your leadership. And if there's anybody who's been a good leader to you in your career and you want to say thank you, take the time to send in an email to chefeco at Extreme Culinary Outfitters and tell us that story. If your letter is picked, you could win $50 in ECO gear, and the person you nominated could win $150 worth of ECO gear. You know, our family is just trying to give back, and we think this is one of the ways that we can do it. We're a family-run business, and we really want to take care of the industry, because if we don't take care of each other, who will? You can always subscribe to us on YouTube or Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram. You can hit the bell below and you'll get notified when we put these shift drinks up. And as always, I'm Chef JoJo, and until next time, cheers.